Okay, so hidden way up high in the Himalayas lies what's honestly one of the most stunning geographic and spiritual paradoxes on Earth. Today, we're jumping right into a place where time practically stood still, totally preserved by towering mountains and strictly enforced borders. It's a region that completely challenges how we understand isolation, culture, and survival in the absolute extremes of the Himalayas. We are unpacking the secrets of Mustang, Nepal's last forbidden kingdom.
Picture a map of the Himalayas for a second. It's crisscrossed by these legendary packed trekking routes and bustling base camps. Now, what if I told you that a massive, culturally distinct region sat literally right next to these super popular trails, yet somehow remained completely hidden from the outside world for centuries? Seriously, how does an entire kingdom just stay off the global radar like that? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the massive physical walls that kept the world out.
Okay, let's dive into this. Mustang isn't just remote, it is geographically fortified. We're talking about over 3,500 square kilometers of high-altitude desert that stretches northward right onto the Tibetan Plateau. Because this district sits directly behind the towering Annapurna and Dhaulagiri mountain ranges, it exists in a massive rain shadow. So, while heavy summer monsoon rains are just absolutely drenching the rest of Nepal, Mustang stays bone dry. The landscape here is all deeply eroded, vividly colored canyons and wind-carved cliffs. And slicing right through all of this arid rock is the Kali Gandaki River, which creates one of the deepest river gorges on the planet. I mean, you have valley floors at 2,700 meters, looking straight up at peaks piercing the sky at over 8,000 meters. It is an environment of absolute extremes.
Now, to really get a feel for Mustang today, you kind of have to understand its split personality. The district is broadly divided into two completely different vibes. Lower Mustang, that's somewhat accessible. You have Jomsom acting as a transport hub with a domestic airstrip, and the incredibly sacred Muktinath Temple up at 3,800 meters, which is highly revered by both Hindus and Buddhists. But then, you hit the medieval village of Kogbeni. This is the official gateway checkpoint. Walk past this line, and you enter Upper Mustang, a highly regulated, restricted area that requires a very special permit to even step foot in. It's this wild contrast, from accessible transit hubs straight into a heavily guarded threshold protecting ancient medieval architecture and the walled capital of Lo Monthang.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because the reason that upper region is so locked down is deeply rooted in its history. The northern two-thirds of this district wasn't just some random province. It was the independent Himalayan kingdom of Lo, founded way back in 1380 by Nepal. It actually kept its own monarchy and this incredibly distinct Tibetan Buddhist identity for centuries. Even after it got annexed by Nepal in the late 18th century, it was basically left to its own devices. Get this, Upper Mustang was completely closed to all foreign visitors until 1992. No way in. And even though the monarchy officially ended in 2008 when Nepal became a republic, those local cultural ties and that royal legacy, they're still incredibly strong today.
You know, hearing about all this isolation begs a pretty fascinating historical question. During the 1960s and 70s, thousands of overland travelers and counterculture seekers were flocking to Nepal, famously hanging out on Kathmandu's Freak Street. With all these global wanderers exploring the Himalayas, you naturally assume at least a few of them wandered up into the mystical canyons of Mustang, right? Actually, scratch that. We need to shatter a massive historical assumption right here.
Mustang completely missed the hippie trail, like, entirely. And for three very serious reasons. First, its forbidden status. Upper Mustang was tightly sealed sovereign territory. The Nepalese government simply did not let anyone in, period. Second, geopolitical security. Mustang shares a direct border with Tibet. Back in the 60s and 70s, Tibetan Khampa guerrilla resistance fighters were actively operating in this exact area, making it a heavily militarized, hypersensitive security zone. And third, extreme isolation. Even the lower parts of Mustang lacked basically any roads or infrastructure during the peak of that counterculture movement. So, while Kathmandu was absolutely thriving with tourists, Mustang was an insulated, lockdown fortress.
And that brings us to a really profound realization. The harsh geography, the political borders, the militarization, those walls successfully kept the modern world out. But what exactly were they keeping in? By being totally cut off from global tourism and rapid modernization, Mustang effectively became a time capsule. It allowed these incredible, esoteric spiritual cultures to survive perfectly intact, completely untouched by the shifting tides of the 20th century.
For example, long before Tibetan Buddhism even took root in the Himalayas, Mustang and Western Tibet were the heartlands of something much older, the Bon tradition.
This is a pre-Buddhist, animist, and shamanic tradition. In the Bon worldview, the natural landscape isn't just rock and dirt, it's literally alive. It's teeming with territorial spirits, subterranean deities, and powerful cosmic forces. The environment itself is seen as a living, breathing spiritual entity that you have to navigate and deeply respect.
So, the crucial point is that this living landscape fundamentally shaped how early inhabitants lived and practiced. If you look up at the eroded canyons of Mustang, you'll see the cliffs are literally honeycombed with thousands of mysterious, man-made, prehistoric cave dwellings. Historically, these vertical, wind-scoured rock faces were used by early Bon and Buddhist yogis, meditators and shamans as high-altitude retreat cells. In esoteric thought, these aren't just caves. They are literal thresholds. They're the exact boundary lines between our physical reality and unseen spiritual realms.
And here's what's truly amazing. This isn't just ancient history. These shamanic lineages are still surviving today. Take Lupura village, which is this rare sacred enclave near Kegbani, where active Bon monasteries are still operating right now. For the practitioners living there, the extreme environment of Mustang, the punishing winds, the arid high-altitude deserts, the bubbling mineral-rich thermal waters, these aren't just weather patterns. They are external manifestations of elemental energies, and those energies have to be carefully balanced by the community through esoteric meditation, complex rituals, and even exorcisms. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this ancient shamanic foundation completely merges with Vajrayana Buddhism. In Tibetan Buddhist esotericism, Mustang borders territory considered to be a bayul. A bayul is a hidden sacred sanctuary, a physical and spiritual refuge blessed by ancient spiritual masters, most notably Padmasambhava, who's also known as Guru Rinpoche. It's this profound idea of Mustang acting as a deeply protected, mystical safe haven from all the chaos of the outside world.
And this concept of spiritual protection, it's literally built right into the architecture. Just look at the ancient capital, Lo-Montong. Enclosed by these massive 16th century mud brick walls, this isn't just a fortress meant to keep out invading armies. It actually functions as a mandala city. It was constructed explicitly on sacred geometric principles designed to mirror the cosmic order. The city itself, which houses ancient monasteries like Thubchen and Jampa Lakhong, is built as a physical, architectural shield to protect its people from chaotic external forces and internal spiritual turmoil.
Inside these hidden spaces, like the ancient cave monastery of Lirigompa, you'll find these absolutely breathtaking esoteric paintings and shortens depicting rare tantric deities and dakinis. But here is what makes this a real game changer. In this culture, these are not just historical artifacts or pretty decorations you'd admire in a museum. They are active ritual technologies. Practitioners use this lineage art as a functional tool, a visual and spiritual technology, to actively channel and achieve spiritual transformation. It has a working purpose in their everyday cosmology. And this brilliantly illustrates how this deep interconnectedness extends from the grandest scales all the way down to the absolute smallest. We've talked about the macro stuff, the 8,000-meter peaks, the massive walled cities, the endless sky caves. But to truly grasp the esoteric value of Mustang, we have to shift our gaze down to the dirt, to the ancient trade corridors of the Kali Gandaki riverbed.
Because right here in the riverbed, you can find shalograms. These are fossilized ammonites that are literally millions of years old. For Hindus, these are deeply revered as Swayambhu, direct, self-manifested icons of Lord Vishnu. And for local indigenous animists and Buddhists, they are seen as powerful earth fetishes imbued with ancient geological and spiritual agency. These tiny little stones represent the ultimate convergence of matter and myth. They tie the physical, rocky reality of Mustang straight into grand cosmic mythologies of creation, time, and ultimate dissolution.
From the towering rain shadows that blocked the monsoon to the geopolitical boundaries that blocked out the modern era, Mustang is an absolute masterclass in preservation. It's a place where every cliff, every cave, and every fossil tells a story of survival and profound spirituality. Which leaves us with this final thought. If millions of years of cosmic mythology and human devotion can be held right in the palm of your hand with a single river stone, what other untold secrets are still out there, quietly carved into the wind-scoured cliffs of our world, just waiting to be understood? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.